Alright, I've had some requests to do a pick-by-pick analysis video just to kind of give us an idea for some newer players and whatnot about some draft strategies and my personal opinions, which may differ from yours, and that's okay. But this will hopefully help some new players get a better understanding of draft. I know that set 2 comes out here in maybe 2 to 4 weeks, but and this is a set 1 draft, but it'll give you kind of some basic ideas. So here we go with pick 1. First thing I look for is some major bomb cards, removal, some evasion. Here I'm looking at either murder, inner conflict. Those are 2 big ones. Phoenix Guard is pretty decent, and Burn to the Ground is pretty good too, especially late game. So I really like Burn to the Ground in Limited. I think it's a pretty powerful card late, especially if you're mono red. You don't necessarily have to be mono ruby, but it can help. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one over the rest. Alright, pick 2, the rare has been taken. Looking also for any bombs or removal cards here. Initially, I mean, based off of this theme of red so far, of ruby, I like the Bombsmith. It can get rid of some of those that are weak on the back end, like the Darkspire here, or the Zombie Vulture. There's a lot of cards that are weak on the back end, so that's not necessarily a bad pick. We've got Repel as well. It's a cheap, quick action in the Diamond Shard, and I really like that one. Playing into Sapphire, Mimic can be pretty powerful too, but I'm going to stay away from that one for now. I don't like the double threshold, and sometimes that card makes its way around. So I'm going to go ahead and take the removal option, which is the Repel. All right, looking at this sticking with the same theme, looking for some bigger, nastier cards, some removal options, and some evasion. Howling Ambush is decent removal, but it is contingent removal, since you do have to have a troop in your hand to reveal. But it's decent. Since I've already got 1 white removal, 1 diamond removal, it's not too bad. I like the Mystic because you can shard it for flying. Ruby Lance is good as well, especially if you're mono ruby. Howling Ambush sometimes makes its way around, and it's more of a contingent removal. I know the Ruby Lance is based off of the threshold of ruby that you have, but even if you have 2-3 ruby, that gets rid of a lot of cards in Limited. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Ruby Lance. Alright, pick 4. Same concept here. I'm mainly eyeing the Griffin, but before I start taking cards that are, semi decent, Terabot as well, I still want to look at removal. Removal is very, very strong, and it usually comes in short supply. So, Flock of Seagulls is a decent card. I don't like the 2 threshold. I also don't like the fact that it can be taken out by pretty much any decent 1 damage removal that's out there. Between the Ruby Lance and the Burn, I'm going to take the Burn. It's cheaper, it's 1 cost, and it's not contingent upon how many shards I have in play, how much threshold I have, so I'm going to take the Burn. So right now I have 3 removal cards and a game finisher. And technically could be used as removal as well, since it deals to champion or troop. I like the fact that I'm seeing another Burn come around. I do at some point need to look at whether or not I want to start getting into creatures, which I will obviously need. I can't be so heavy into removal, but again, removal's in short supply. Scrap Welder is pretty good. It's 5 evasion speed, 5 flight speed if you have an artifact, so it can come in handy. But again, I think in this instance, Necessary Sacrifice, not really a strong card for what I'm looking for. It's also got the 2 threshold here. So I'm going to take another burn. It's pretty much a no-brainer on this pack. Now I'm not committing to Ruby yet, but it is looking pretty strong for me. It's always good to keep your options open because you never know what's going to happen. Alright, I'm looking at two different options here. The main ones that I'm looking at are Mortar Strike or the Wailing Banshee. Wailing Banshee is a nice 2/2. If you end up pumping it, it can get through because it cannot be blocked except by artifact troops or blood troops. But Mortar Strike, again, is another removal card. And I really, really like removal, especially in limited format. If you control the board state, you can win with a 1/1. Not that you would want to, but it's a lot easier to do that and force them to top deck. Diamondar is not bad if you're going into Diamond, but I'm going to stick with the removal theme here. Also, the other thing about Mortar Strike to keep in mind is if you play it when they've got, say, 2 or 3 cards in their hand and they haven't been playing creatures, what I really like about it is bury all troops from the top 3 cards of that controller's deck. So if you Mortar Strike and only 1 card gets burned, you know that for the next 2 turns they are not drawing a troop. So it can kind of tell you a little bit something about their deck as well. Alright, so here I've got Ruby Lance and Sapphire's Charge. I have a chance that this will come around again, but smaller chance that I'll get the Ruby Lance. But Sapphire's Charge I like because it can give you a board threat. It can be an artifact for a Scrap Welder if you need it, and it's nice to have out there looming, and it's not contingent on how many threshold you have. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up. It's a nice turn 1 drop. Alright, well, here we are again with another opportunity for removal. I don't want to get too heavy into removal too early. I've got 2 packs left. They're all going to be set 1 packs, and there's a high probability that a Mortar Strike will come around again, and I probably won't play more than 2 of them. At this point, I'm going to pick the card that's that's an evasion. So when I attack with Infiltrator Bot, can't be blocked this turn if I pay 1. And if I end up doing that with Lionel Flynn, I can make him into a 6/2. So not a bad idea. Sniper of Gawain is sometimes undervalued, and since it looks like I'm mono Ruby at this point, he serves 2 purposes. Serves the purpose of removal, especially something 2 on the back end. Can do it straight to the champion's face if you can't get rid of a troop, or they don't have any troops out there. And it's a creature. If you end up getting a Pyromancer, then it'll boost that and you can do more damage too. Alright, looking at the Ruby card here, Bloodcrazed Zealot, people I really feel undervalue this 5-drop. It's a 5/4 for 5 and the threshold is 1. So for each resource that you're spending, you're getting a power. And the toughness is decent on the back end. On top of that, the fact that here we have another one. I'm definitely taking that. Actually, just kidding. I'm probably going to see a common. I'm probably going to see this come around again, pack 2 or 3, because it's common. I'm going to take the Howling Ambush in case I start getting into Sapphire as well. Going back to what I was saying, here's that Ruby Lance again. What was I saying? Oh, with the Bloodcrazed Zealot. And if you end up playing something like Sapphire Ruby, give that sucker Flight with Feather drifting downriver as a champion, and now you've got a 5/4 Flight. That is an ugly, ugly thing to deal with. Here, since I'm kind of in 2 colors at this point, I'm going to stick with the Bravery. May or may not play it, but it doesn't hurt to take just in case. Down to 2 cards. Turret Dwell and Arena Brawler. Arena Brawler is nice. It's a 2-drop 3/1, so it's good for some early damage. It's not a huge threat unless you give it Swift Strike with like a Ruby Aura or something, but it's not a bad pickup. I'm going to go ahead and bin this card, since I probably will not be using it. Alright, pack 2. Pack 2, we are looking at... Looks like a Malice Demon is the first card out of this. Now, as far as the rare is concerned, ignoring the Malice Demon, looking at other options. Right now I'm pretty committed to these two colors, specifically Ruby. I don't need to be committed to Sapphire. I'm sorry, to Diamond. I can be, but I don't need to be. So if I'm looking at other options on the board, I can easily justify some of these other cards. Elite Battletech is a nice mechanic because if you end up using the Worker Bot champion, that can help. It can also help the fact that it's a 1/4 that you immediately can bounce somebody with. Jim Craze Berserker is great in the colors that I'm playing currently, but I think this is a pretty no-brainer. The Malice Demon, I may not even use it, but I don't want somebody who's playing Blood to have it in their hands. So at this point I'm going to keep my options open, and I'm definitely going to take it. Not necessarily as a rare draft, but more as a hate draft. Okay. Here I've got Incantation of Fear, and this is opposing graveyard from anywhere. It's a 4 cost, so that means that minimum would be the 4th turn before it happens. So then they have to have 5 or more cards go into an opposing graveyard in order for this to shift. Not real great in limited, so I'm going to look past that. Sorrow's pretty good, especially against my deck currently, since I've got only a couple creatures that are weak on the back end. Ruby Lance seems to be going around making its rounds. I don't really need a third one. I've got plenty of removal right now, and at this point it'd be good to start looking into other options. Knowing that I'm playing Ruby, and knowing that Ruby has a lot of cards that are 1 on the back end, I'm going to take this Sorrow, even if I don't into Blood, even if I don't go into Blood, because I definitely do not want it used against me. Alright, in this pack I'm looking at a few cards. A few of them catch my eye initially. Obviously Burn to the Ground, great finishing card as I mentioned before. Jim Craze Berserker, you can socket it with cannot be blocked except by Ruby or artifact creatures. So that's a good socket. That's a good gem to socket it with. And Ruby Aura. Ruby Aura is great because the Swift Strike, primarily. It's a quick action, so you can play that when they're not expecting it, and it's kind of a form of removal. And since it's permanent, it stays on the creature, as well as the +1/+0. So between these, I'm going to pick what I think is the obvious choice here, the second Burn to the Ground. Now, you'll notice that I am really lacking creatures at this point, so it's pretty imperative that I start getting some creatures in my next few picks. But I still have the rest of this pack as well as pack 3. And there's some really quality removal out here. At this point, I'm getting heavy into removal, like ridiculous amount of removal at this point. More than I can remember in a lot of drafts. So my picks here are, I've already got a Sniper. Chances are I'll see another one. The Wrathseeker's pretty good, especially if you end up getting Swift Strike on it, or you get it out early and it starts to swing. Becomes a 1/1, then a 3/1, then a 5/1, etc. every time it attacks. But again, solid removal in that second color. I just don't see a reason not to take the Repel, even if I'm hate drafting it. Dangerously, like I mentioned before, dangerously pulling into so much removal. Oh god, so much removal that at some point I'm going to have to start taking some creatures. I really shouldn't do this. I'm going to take another Burn. This is... by the way, the other card here is Noble Citizenry. This card is amazing. Comes into play, another target troop you control gets permanent +2/+2. It's a 4-drop, 2/3 that gives you another creature permanent +2/+2. It is fantastic, especially if you've got cards that are weak on the back end like Ruby has, or that have flying or some other form of evasion. It's a great card. It's my number 2 pick in this pack. Gotta stick with the Burn though. Oh my goodness gracious. So if you're watching this video, I've never had a draft like this before, so this is rare. My 2 that I'm looking at primarily here are the Minotaur, which is a risky card. Sometimes it can really work in your favor, getting a 4/3 out on turn 2. I've had it happen, it's great. But then if you don't get it out, then you've just gift wrapped them a 2/1, which in my case, I've got a crap ton of removal. Big deal. It's a risk versus reward thing. Chances are, though, it's going to come back around based on the fact that I'm getting a pick 20 burn. Can't really Can't really go away from that. Okay, time to start getting serious about some creatures. Ruby Lance, I've got 2 of them. Probably don't need a third given the amount of removal I have. If one comes around later, great. But at this point, I'm either hate drafting or I'm picking into creatures that will help my deck. I've got a socketable 1/2 Grimskull Sorcerer. I've also got a Sniper. Again, I'll probably see that later, and I really need to start getting into some creatures, especially since if we look at cost, right now I've got a lot of 1 cost. In the 2-drop area, I've got a few, but my curve is looking it's looking okay at this point, but I want to make sure that I'm keeping that balanced too. In this pack, I think the pretty obvious option here is the Wrathseeker, but Chargebot's not necessarily bad. Get an extra charge to go toward whatever you're playing. In my case, it looks like either Dimit or Lionel Flynn. But I like this guy with Rage. If I end up picking up a Ruby Aura later that gives me the Swift Strike option, it's great with him because of the Rage as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Wrathseeker. He's also only my 3rd card in the 3 slot. At this point, I'm probably not playing the Sorrow or the Malice Demon. I'm going to go ahead and bin them, but I always have the option of looking back to them later. And that's a graphical bug here. It shouldn't actually be a Bravery that I put in there. There we go. Alright, with this pack I'm looking at Crushing Blow, which I don't have a ton of creatures right now to use Crushing Blow on. It's a nice card. 2/2 and Crush this turn for only 1 quick action. But I'm going to have to go with the Assault Bot just to get some more creatures. And then in addition to that, it's the only card in my 4 slot right now. Along that similar line, here my 2 picks would be Shards of Fate or Giant Army Ants. The Ruby Lance again, I'm probably going to see another one, seeing as how many I've already seen already. It's terrible grammar, but you understand what I'm saying. Shards of Fate's good since I'm going into 2 colors, but I really, really need some creatures. So I'm going to pick up this Giant Army Ants even if I don't end up playing it. Alright, it's encouraging to see this Jim Craze Berserker so late in the pack. It tells me that they're probably not playing Ruby, otherwise somebody else would have snatched it up. I don't really see any other option, especially with the number of burns that are being passed up. So definitely taking that card. It's a strong card. If I end up going Lionel Flynn, I can make him into a 6/1 unblockable unless they have an artifact or an artifact or Ruby card. So in that case, it won't be able to be blocked. Obvious pick here is the Sniper. It's my 2nd creature, actually my 3rd creature in the 5 slot. 4th, just kidding. But again, it's that kind of combo of removal plus creature option. I'd really like to get Ruby Pyromancer at this point to combo with it, and also give me another creature option. Here, not a whole lot of options. I'll probably go with the Assault Bot. I doubt I'll play them both, but because right now I've drafted 24, and I'm probably only running 22 to 23 of those cards. Plus 17 or 18 resources. So at this point, may not even use those depending on what I get in pack 3, but I could theoretically go into Mono Ruby, so we'll see. We'll see where it ends up. And then pick 30, final pick of pack 2. Sniper. As I suspected, getting another Sniper to come back around. I doubt that I will play with 3 of them, to be frank. I just don't see the need to have 3 Snipers, but we'll see. Alright, this is a great pack. Excuse me, not because there's a living totem. Well, partially because there's a living totem. It's great because there's a living totem, which is obviously going to be my pick given the colors that I have and the fact that it's a living totem and it's fantastic. In case you're not familiar with living totem, it's a 2/2 for 2, 1 threshold, and you can pump it up to do a lot of stuff. It's pretty fantastic. The other picks that I would look for here, Crazed Rummaging is meh. The Mazat Ranger is great to hate draft. If you end up doing Blood Diamond and you give that Swift Strike socket, or Blood Sapphire and you give that Flight, that's a 4-1 Flight for a 4-1 First Strike. That is an ugly, ugly card in draft that I don't want to see personally used against me. So that's another card that would be a strong pick. Also Sapphire Aura, if you are in Sapphire, permanent +1/+1 and Flight. It's great because it gives it the buff, the evasion, and it's a swift strike. Or, I'm sorry, it's a quick action, rather. So you can use it as a surprise. Hey, here's an extra 1 defense that you weren't expecting. In this pack, I'm looking at a few. If I play the Sapper's Charge, I mean, I'm really relying on the Sapper's Charge for the Scrap Welder. Or maybe one of these assault bots that I don't know that I'm even going to play anyway. So I'm going to shy away from that one initially. My instinct is going with the Lurker as another decent creature. 3 on the back end is a nice, I wouldn't call it tanky, but it's out of the 2-shot range, which is what Sniper and Burn and a lot of removal is. Mesmerize, by the way, is a great pick in this pack as well. If you're going mono Blood, Inquisition's a pretty good pick. But for me, Shield Trainer or the Lurker, my guys are pretty weak on the back end. Shield Trainer wouldn't be a bad pickup. Gonna go ahead and go with the Lurker, though. Okay, in this pack, I am looking at the Effigy. Socketable, I can socket it with the Ruby socket, giving it basically unblockable unless it's by another artifact. Gem Crazed Berserker is the same thing, I'd be able to socket it very nicely. The Arena Brawler, 3-1 for 2, again not bad. As I mentioned before, if you're in Blood, that's a great pick. Wailing Banshee's a nice evasion card in Blood. Mimic if you're in Sapphire or your mono Sapphire. Diamond Aura isn't a bad pick for me either, but since I'm limited on the number of creatures that I have, I don't want to start getting buffs. I really need to start picking into creatures. So I'm looking at either the Gem Crazed Berserker or the Effigy. I've seen the Gem Crazed Berserker come around. I'm tempted to just take the Effigy and see if it comes around again. It's a bit of a risk, but you know what? Normally I would just err on the side of caution, but for the sake of just this recording and seeing how reading a draft can help, I'm going to go ahead and take it. It also doesn't hurt if you end up getting the Scrap Welder later or Elimination Specialist. It serves as another artifact for both of those. So in this pack I've got the Furious Taskmaster, which is not bad. I can give an Orc speed, which I have a lot of Orcs right now, so it's not an Orc, but that's an Orc. That's an Orc. But I really don't find the huge value in it. It's a 2/2 that can give others speed. It's okay, but Elimination Specialist is a great card because if I've got 2 artifacts out, I'm dealing 2 damage to a troop, which if a lot of troops that's going to kill it. Or if I play at main phase 2 and I've already done damage main phase 1, ta-da, there we go. It finishes it off. So I'm going to take the Elimination Specialist. By the way, if you are in Wild, Turbulence is a great pickup. If you go there's a second one that just came. If you go Wild Sapphire, one of the tips that I was given at Gen Con this last weekend, which I hadn't thought of, but it makes so much sense. If you have Feather Drifting Downriver and you give Flight to an opposing troop, and then you use Turbulence, it's fantastic. Confuses them at first. Why are you giving my troop Flight? Imp Hoodlums is a great sideboard card or reserve card because you can destroy an artifact, and especially in set 2, artifacts can really become a nuisance. Ruby R is going to be my pick in this pack. It's pretty obvious. Imp Hoodlums will probably come back around. If you're in Blood, I love Headless Executioner in Limited. I obviously don't have the time to dissect every single card, but Headless Executioner, it's a 5/5 for 5. It's only 1 threshold. You can't block with it, so you're probably swinging with it almost every turn. When you're in a limited format and you're swinging with 5, that's a quarter of their life, of their starting life, every turn. And if I've got a card like Giant Army Ants or Sniper, there is no way, unless I'm a combo block, that I'm going to get 5 on the defense to block that. So it's a pretty threatening card, and it should not be overlooked. Alright, I'm going to sort by type because I want to see how many creatures I have. I've got an okay amount of creatures at this point. I'm obviously not going to use them all. I'm not real super thrilled in the Giant Army Ants, so at this point I'm going to take a Diamond Aura. Stone Skin, by the way, is great as well, but I've got so much removal that at this point it's not a bad pickup, but I am going to go with these others. Oh, good lord. Like, how do I ever pass up a burn? I've never seen a draft like this. This is insane. And the answer is I don't. I just don't see myself passing up a burn. A strategy, by the way, could be that I've got so much removal in here that I could, try a win con with like some smaller creatures like a Savage Raider. Not the most recommended, because if you're playing weak on the number of creatures that you have, then you're really relying on trying to top deck those creatures, and then if they have removal in return, then you're burning yourself. No pun intended. But I'm going to take another burn, because why not? Ridiculous. Alright, in this one, I like Insight Fury because of the permanent rage. Obviously, like I've mentioned before, I like Ruby Lance. I'm going to take the Scrap Welder. I have to. I need more creatures. I don't desperately need more creatures, but it's a great pickup. I've got some artifacts in here that it could combo with. If you need shard fixing at this point, I don't know that I'm going to go into Diamond. I may. Adaptable Infusion Device isn't bad, and it's a pretty good pickup, but I'm going to go with the Scrap Welder. If you're in Wild, Survival of the Fittest is a fantastic pickup because it's one of the few Wild removal cards, so I would recommend that if you're in Wild. And they don't come around often, so pick them up early. Alright, down to the final few picks. My options here, I'm looking at Rigid Buffalo, probably not because it's a 2 threshold, even though it's got 3 on the back end for defense. Crushing Blow is not a bad pickup, but Assault Bot, it combos with a Scrap Welder. It's another creature with 4 on the front end. It's not a bad pickup. I'm going to go ahead and take it. If I end up going Mono Ruby, then it's versatile. I don't have to worry about threshold and stuff. Actually, even if I go two different charts. But here my options are Shield Trainer or Scrap Welder. I sort by shard. Kind of weak in the Diamond area. It wouldn't be a bad pickup to go Shield Trainer over the Scrap Welder. I'm going to go with the Scrap Welder. I'm going to go with the Aggression and bank on these artifacts. Get removal. So kind of my strategy as I'm thinking in my head right now is get removal out early. So remove a lot of their creatures. Wait till I can build up a 4-drop like an Assault Bot or something else, an artifact of some kind, and then be able to drop one of my Scrap Welders if it's in my hand. Or Elimination Specialist, things like that. I was right. Excuse me. I was right about the Gem Craze Berserker coming back around. A little surprising, but there's no way I'm going to turn that down. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. Getting down to the final few picks, at this point you should probably have your deck pretty well set, because these last few picks are just going to be probably mediocre cards at best, or something to hate draft or something along those lines. So really not a stellar pick in here. Could hate draft something like the Protectorate, but I'll take the 2/3. Imp Hoodlums, like I said, would make it around, and it did. I've got plenty of Assault Bots. Imp Hoodlums is also in the 3 slot, which is not bad for keeping your curve consistent. I will probably not main deck it, but it's a great card to have for sideboard. Last but not least, last couple just miscellaneous picks. No real reason. Conky Benny over Mutilate, just picked it up. And then I get a card in my color for my last pick. So there we have it. There is kind of a breakdown pick-by-pick breakdown of what I picked and why I picked it. I'll go ahead and do an analysis of the deck building phase, and maybe attached to the comments of this video or the description of this video or something, I can tell you how well I did, but I don't see the need to continue recording the entire time. So I will just record the deck building portion of this. First, I'm going to sort by shard. Actually, I need to turn off any of the colors that I'm not using. I'm going to leave artifact on because I'm using those. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at threshold. I'm considering going 2 colors because Living Totem is strong, and so are 2 repel. What's the drawback? Alright, well, I don't have a lot in that shard color. I could easily go mono. Living Totem is strong enough to splash, to be honest, especially with the amount of removal that I have. And with 2 extra repels, I don't know, it's strong. So it's not a bad option. The thing that you need to consider if you're going into 2 or more colors is threshold. So do I have a lot of cards that require a diamond threshold? Do I have a lot of cards that require double diamond threshold? Or a 3 diamond threshold? So similarly, at my primary color, which is obviously ruby here, do I have any that require a double ruby threshold? And I'm looking, and I don't see a single one. Actually, the 2 Burn to the Ground required 2 ruby threshold, and then the 2 Sniper Gwain. Those are the only 2. I'm sorry, 3 snipers, but I'll probably only play with 2 of them if I play with that many anyway. So looking at this, those are the only 2 that have a double threshold. In most games, even if I go 2 colors, I'm going to get that threshold. So especially considering I would probably balance it more towards the ruby than the diamond. So all those things being considered, I'm going to build a test deck, or a tentative deck basically, to kind of see what would it look like if I did go 2 colors. First and foremost, what I want to add to the deck are my bombs and my removal. My bombs being the big kind of game-winning cards that you have. So in this case, Living Totem can be a really strong game-winning card. Again, I know people will disagree with me on this, but Blood Crazed Zealot can be a game-winning card. He's pretty awesome. I'm gonna add him in here. The other reason I'm adding him in, by the way, if we sort by cost, I don't have a lot in the 5 slot. Blood Crazed Zealot being one of them. I've got a Mortar Strike, a couple of snipers that I'll use, maybe the Infiltrator bot. Other than that, there's not a whole lot in the 5 slot. Nothing in the 6, 7, or 8 slot. So as far as balancing the deck, it's really not an imposition to put in the Blood Crazed Zealot. All right, any other big bombs? Yeah, Burn to the Ground. Those can be game winners late game. And I'm looking at things like Elimination Specialist. I wouldn't call those like the must-haves. At this point, I'm going to start looking at removal. So I'm going to add my removal, which is a ridiculous amount of removal. 5 burns? Are you kidding me? I've never seen that happen. That's crazy. And it makes me want to not really use Ruby Lance, to be honest. I've got 5 burns. I've got Burn to the Ground. I've got a Sapphire's Charge. What if I end up with 3 diamond and 1 ruby? Now I can only deal 1 damage because of the threshold. So because of the amount of burn that I have, literally burn cards, I have 5 of these cards. So I've got some pretty good removal there. Adding in the repel, there's 2 more removal. So 5 removal from burn, 6, 7 from repel, 8 from Sapphire's Charge. That's a substantial amount of removal. I don't really see the need for the Ruby Lance at this point. Same with the Howling Ambush. Given the fact that I was so heavy on removal early and limited on the number of creatures early, Howling Ambush, it can be great, but I've got enough removal that I don't really need the Howling Ambush. It's contingent upon me having a creature in my hand, or a troop rather, in my hand, so I'm not going to go with it at this point. Maybe later, after I get to my 22 cards. If I say, oh, I'll add this one in or whatnot, then I can switch them out. But at this point, my goal is to get to 22 cards, adding from the top down, essentially, what are the must-add cards, and then what are the cards that combo with each other, that should go in with each other, those types of things. Continuing with the removal theme, Mortar Strike is great. It does 3 damage as opposed to burns 2, and Sapphire charges 2. It might be worth adding. I'm not going to add it just yet, because actually I'll add it, but I might remove it, because I have not yet added a creature outside of Living Totem and Zealot, and I'm already at 13 cards. So probably going to end up getting rid of it and removing it from the deck, because I have so many other forms of removal here. Same with the Sniper. Like, it's great when you can combo with a Pyromancer, or when you can, when you use it for removal, damage straight to the face, whatever the case may be, it's not a bad card. It's not worth playing 3, and given the amount of removal I have, like if I was desperate for removal, I would definitely be adding 2 of those to my deck. But I'm not, and it's going to do the same amount of damage as a burn. So given what I've got here, I'm going to go ahead and leave all 3 of those. The Gem Crazed Berserkers, I have to add those in. They're very, very strong. I'm going to go ahead and socket them now before I forget. And I'm going to socket them since I'll probably end up... That's another threshold consideration, by the way. I need 2 threshold for this gem to be active. 2 ruby threshold. Can't be blocked except by artifact troops and or troops that share a shard. So artifact or ruby. So I'm going to gem those both with the same thing. It is a minor socket, so I can't use either of these prime rubies. I can only use the regular. And I could use a 3/1 speed. Like, it's not terrible, but I'd much rather have the... because speed is one of those surprise attacks. Hey, it's getting through this turn, but it's probably not getting through next turn, or if they can help it, it won't be. So that's why I'm going to use this other shard. The other option, by the way, to think about would be Swift Strike, since I am in Diamond. Not a terrible idea. The life drain could be okay, but it's the double threshold, just really not worth the balancing of it. A 3/1 Swift Strike is fine, but I've got enough removal. I'd much rather have the evasion element of this card not being able to be blocked. And given the fact that he came around late, the fact that burns were pretty much going unpicked, those types of things, Ruby Lance, etc., I don't think anyone else is playing Ruby, so all I have to worry about is it being blocked by artifacts. If somebody else is playing Ruby, I'll be surprised. They might be. There could be maybe one other person, but in this 8-man pod, I'm doubting it at this point. So I'm at 15 cards out of the 22, maybe 23 that I want to add, and I have yet to add any artifacts other than the Sapphire's Charge. So I could look at this 2 different ways. I could look at this as, let's go with the artifact combo of Elimination Specialist Scrap Welder and see if I can combo off with those. Or I can go with other options and see where that leads me. So I think I'm going to go with just adding some strong creatures and some strong cards and see where it takes me. Initially, the Wrathseeker, it's good in the 3 slot. Since I'm starting to add creatures now, I'm going to sort by cost because I want to make sure that that's staying balanced. I like going low to high. So I've got a creature here in the 2 slot. I've got 2 creatures in the 3 slot with the Gem Craze, so 3 creatures in the 3 slot with the Wrathseeker. Nothing in the 4 slot yet. That doesn't mean I'm going to go seek out a 4 slot, but that's just a consideration to keep in mind. The Effigy isn't bad. I'm going to socket it with the same thing that can't be blocked except by artifact troops or troops that share a shard with it, which in this case is artifact, so it can't be blocked unless it's by another artifact. So I'm going to add that one. I'm going to make sure I've got everything gemmed. I like to gem the time that I add it so that I don't forget later, and I always double check all my gems before I save, because there's nothing worse than dropping a card when you think it's gemmed and then you haven't gemmed it. I'm going to count the number of creatures I have. I'm really looking at Ruby R. I love this card. It's like one of those nice, surprise, it gets Swift Strike. Given the fact that I've got a lot that are weak on the back end, it's nice to have that little surprise attack there. But I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures. Not nearly enough. I want to be around 10, 12 creatures, ideally, so that I have a good probability of picking those up somewhat regularly in either my opening hand or my draws. So I'm going to hold back on the Ruby R. I'm going to start adding creatures at this point. Savage Raider must attack each turn. It's great if you're like trying to get hot and heavy early and get some early damage in there or whatever. And given the amount of removal I have, if I've got the removal in the hand, that can be great. I'm attacking for 2, turn 1. Or I'm sorry, turn 2. Attacking for 2, turn 3. Attacking for 2, turn 4, and I've got a burn, so I get rid of their creature that they've just played, and now I'm smacking them for 2 in the face all the time. Not necessarily the best strategy at this point, given what else I have. So I'm going to go ahead and pass up on that one. I'll go ahead and add the Infiltrator bot. It's another in the 5 slot. I've got 3 cards in the 5 slot at this point. I don't really want to add more than that. You can, but I've seen it happen. You draw like 4 resources and then 3 in the 5 slot, and you're going, well, I can at least play those, but now where are the other cards? So I don't know. That's probably where I'll cap it, unless I play a sniper or 2, maybe a Diamond Dara, but at this point, there's really no reason to do that. For the reasons I mentioned earlier, being low on troops and having enough removal. Assault Bot is weak on the back end. It's only got 2 defense. And I don't want to be removaled. I don't want to be out-removaled. I want to be out-removaling them, if that makes sense. So I'm hesitant to play it, but I'm guessing the type of removal I'll be running into will be like Mesmerize or something like that. So I don't have anything in the 4 slot. I'm going to go and add these and see where it leaves me. Alright, so if I go with like the Artifact Elimination Specialist type combo, get rid of the Mortar Strike, or possibly get rid of a burn and add the Mortar Strike. Probably not. I like those burns. It doesn't leave me with a strong feeling, given that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts in here. I mean, it's okay with the Scrap Welder, with the Elimination Specialist. It's risky. It's still a 3-2, so it's not terrible, and there's still an option of getting it. It would be one of 5 cards in the 4 slot, but I'm already at 22 cards, and that's with the Mortar Strike removed. I'm going to go ahead and drop it. I am doing a lot of commentary, so I only have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and add my shards. I could have possibly went mono blood, or I'm sorry, mono ruby, but there we go. I could have went mono ruby, but didn't have enough time based on the commentary, and I think this is decent enough. So I'm adding more ruby than diamond because I've only got I've got 2 cards that require ruby, and I've got more cards that need ruby than diamond. I could go 11-7 and be safe, but or I'd rather be safe and go 10-8. I could also go 17 shards instead of 18 given my curve, but I've got burned to the ground, so it wouldn't hurt there. I'm going to go ahead and select my champion, and I will do Lionel Flynn, +3/+0 permanent. It's great because I've got a lot of removal, and I can be swinging in with extra damage that way, including the Infiltrator bot. Scrap Welder, Assault Bot, Infiltrator bot. He's good. What do I want to do? Oh, he's also great, by the way. Lionel is also great with the gem that I put in the Berserkers and the effigy. Alright, 45 seconds. Make a decision. This looks good enough. I obviously have to add 1 more card. Looking at the curve, it wouldn't hurt to either add Mortar Strike or Elimination Specialist. I really want the creature option. And I've got a decent amount of artifacts. It doesn't hurt to take a risk on it. If I wanted to play safe, I could do the Shadow Blade Lurker. But now the important part, I've got to select the sleeves. I've got 19 seconds to do it. Jadeem sleeves, go. Everything looks good, 40 cards, got everything selected, save and continue. Everyone's probably upset that I have taken this long to start the tournament, but hopefully this was valuable commentary for you. I am at 45 minutes into this video. I'll go ahead and add a few more minutes to the video. You can stop it right now if you'd like, but I'm going to let a few turns play out just to see how this deck plays, to give you an idea of the feel for it. I'm playing Pentachills. He's a good player, so we'll see how it plays. And then I can do the rest in the form of a post and let you know how it goes that way. All right, so remember earlier when I said 4 resources and then heavy on the back end with the 4 and the 5 cost here? Yeah, that just happened. It's not terrible though. I've got 1 removal card. I've got the resources that I need, diamond and ruby. It's not the best hand to keep, and in most circumstances I probably wouldn't keep it, but for the sake of expediting this video and just seeing how it plays out, I'll go ahead and keep it. He's also running, what is this champion's name? I don't remember the champion's name. I think it starts with a B. But he creates a worker bot, puts it into play, so I'm probably facing artifact, combo artifact. Gearsmith also tells me that, combo artifact. See if he puts a card into his hand. I don't think I saw him do that, so it doesn't look like one of the top 3 cards were artifacts. But that's based off of what I see here. Artifact decks are usually more kind of combo-y and take a little while to get going, so I think I'm even safer at keeping this. Always good manners to wish somebody good luck. On that same note, given the fact that you're in a community, a little aside here, you don't want to burn any bridges, and you know it's just a draft. It's not like a Worlds tournament. There's really nothing to be so upset about. I know I get pretty upset at Kismet sometimes, aka the Shuffler, but you know this is a community that you're with, and there's no reason to start swearing at somebody else because you're not getting the cards that you need. So it's always best to build relationships rather than tearing them down. All right, I'm going to play Ruby Shard first, and the reason I'm playing Ruby first, I consider what's in my deck. I don't have any double threshold diamond at all. I have 2 double threshold ruby. Granted, they're later on, and actually I didn't end up playing the sniper, so I only have burn to the ground as a double threshold. But when I'm considering what shards to play when I have options like this, if I had, I think it's Righteous Paladin, if I remember the name correctly, where anytime you gain a life, he gets +1/+1. He is a 2 diamond threshold 2 cost card. So if I had him in my deck and I was using life gain or whatever, then I would be playing 2 diamond cards first in case I drew him, knowing what my deck has to offer. But in this case, I add the 1 ruby. It gives me a burn option, and that's really what I know I need for my threshold. Alright, I'm not going to burn this creature. It's a Gearsmith. It's a 1/1. Whoop-de-doo. Eventually I'll get an Assault Bot out and I can block and still survive. It's not killing me to lose 1 health. So I'm gonna wait and see what he plays. He's down to 4 cards now. So 3 cards. So now this is what I do not like seeing. This is where I will sideboard an Imp because first of all, he's playing a lot of artifacts. Second of all, I don't want that Sapphire charge. I have a lot this week on the back end. That's a 3/2. This is a 3/2. I didn't pick any shield trainers, so I don't have any way of boosting that. I don't think I added my diamond aura either. So again, no way of boosting that. So this is where I get a little bit nervous about that. It might be where I play a card to try and lure it out, like Assault Bot. Maybe I wanted, maybe I played one of my orcs instead of the assault bot, because I'd rather have the assault bot, or maybe I'd rather have the orc that I draw. So I'd probably play a card to kind of lure him into using the Sapphire charge, and then go from there. Alright, I could repel or burn. I have no reason to at this point. He's probably got other threats that are coming later that I would much rather use that against. These are still only 1/1s. I can afford to lose a few life before I stabilize. And I've got plenty of removal options here. That is something I want to burn. I don't want them getting flight at all. I just don't. Whatever he's playing, I don't care what it is next, I don't want him getting flight. So, if it's a 3 cost or above because of the Inspire, it's going to get flight, and I don't want that to happen. So, at this point, what if I draw a creature that's a 3-drop? So, I'm going to burn at the end. I'm going to burn during the end phase, because I could do it during my turn, but I'd much rather do it now so that I have all 3 resources available during my turn. And there we go, Gem Crazed Berserker, something that's 3 cost. So I'm going to play a Ruby Shard, again, just to get the threshold out that I know I need. I'm not playing any Ruby Lance, but if I were, that would obviously be another reason to pick that. I have the Burn to the Ground here that I could now play as a basic action and do a whopping grand total of 2 damage to something, but no real reason to do that right yet. Because I want the Gem Crazed Berserker, I want to keep him. He really is going to be a staple of the win condition here, between him and the Lionel Flynn. The thing that I'm worried about going up against here is the fact that he's got artifacts, so it can be blocked by artifacts. But I want to lure out the Sapphire Charge before I play this, so that there's no reason to play it right now. I'm going to wait. I'm going to go ahead and play the Assault Bot first, try and lure out the Sapphire Charge, and then play the Gem Crazed Berserker. If somehow he removes the Berserker, no big deal. I have the Infiltrator bot. I can use that as my other form of evasion, and I can add the Lionel Flynn ability to it, to that as well. So either way, I've got some good options here. Also, by leaving the 3 resources available, I have 3 in the resource pool here. I can play Repel if I needed to. Again, right now there's not a whole lot of threatening options on the board for me to need to play Repel. Okay, it's creating another artifact, which worries me. Yeah, I was afraid of that. I'm definitely sideboarding the Imp for that specific reason here. We've got 2 artifacts here that are pretty strong. Good news is that Warhulk, which is a 5/5 crush, I can get rid of it with Repel. Another reason why you don't want to play that too early. It's not attacking. Curiously, but I'm assuming because he would much rather tap him down and get the 5/5 out. Maybe he's afraid that I have speed or something. I don't know. But all those reasons aside, he didn't do it. So, alright, turn 4, 4th threshold. I just need 1 more, and I can activate my Lionel Flynn when I would like to. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and play the Assault Bot and lure out the Sapphire Charge. I will not have a removal option next turn, but I really want to get him to use that Sapphire Charge. Also, it costs 2 resources. Next turn, he will be at a maximum of 4 resources, given the fact that he's got 3 in his pool currently. So, maximum of 4 resources means that if he plays this, he can only play something for 2 or fewer resources next turn. He's only got 2 cards in his hand also, so what I really like about the board setup right now is I have card advantage. If I save the Repel for the Warhulk, I end up getting his Sapphire Charge, then all I have on the board to deal with are 3 1/1s. Really not that threatening, especially if I've got something that's got a 2 on the back end. Okay, he was saving it for the construction plans, so next turn he will get a 5/5. It does come into play exhausted. Exhaust this artifact and transform into a Warhulk. So it does come into play exhausted, so he can't attack with it this turn, even if he did the tap 2 of those down. likely what we'll see here is Sapphire's Charge against my Assault Bot, and then he will use the Warhulk ability at the end of my turn so that it will untap or unexhaust at the beginning of his turn. Okay, he's going to do it now. That's fine. He didn't play a resource immediately. Some players prefer to play it during main phase 2, which is surprising. Not a bad strategy, but in this case he actually did the Terabot instead. That's worrisome. Both of them are 5 on the back end. I could really use another repel because I can't do it with burn. I could possibly combo a burn to the ground burn, but I don't have the resources to do that right now. So right now I've got a 3/5 flyer to deal with and a 5/5 crush. I would much rather deal with a 3/5 flyer though. So what I'm going to do this turn is attack with the Assault Bot. He has no resources, so he cannot use his Sapphire's Charge. If he blocks with a 3/5 thinking that he's safe, I can burn it. And then I can save my repel for the Warhulk. Which means I need to leave 3 resources open, by the way. So playing a Infiltrator Bot or Jimcraze Berserker is not an option, depending on what he does. This is another reason to wait until main phase 2 to make your decision based on what they do. So I'm going to go ahead and attack here. And depending on what he decides will depend on what my next play is. Okay, not blocking. He's going to take 4 damage to the face. That's fine. Could I have held that back and blocked the 5/5 crush? Yes, I could have. I chose not to because I was trying to bait him into the Terabot, and I've got the repel for the 5/5. I could save the repel for the Terabot, and then have burned this. That is an option with the blocking there, but I wanted to bait that in and see if I could do that first. Make him make the decision. So knowing that next turn I've got these 2 both coming at me, I'm going to use 2 for the repel. Burn will not get me where I need to be as far as damaging the Terabot. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Sapphire's Charge. And I've only got 4 total resources, so I will not activate the Sapphire's Charge. Now I can play the repel and the burn if I get desperate. But I've got the Sapphire's Charge already out, so it's already cast, and I don't have to worry about using that resource on it next turn. Okay, so there's 2 trains of thought here. Train of thought number 1, repel the Terabot. It's a 3/5 flyer, which is ugly because it's got evasion. And he'll likely attack with it every turn. The other option here is, and then leaving this open as a blocker. However, he's got 4 resources, and he's got a Sapphire's Charge. So chances are I will not be using it as a blocker later. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to repel the Warhulk to be safe. I'll take I'll take less damage by doing that, and then the Terabot will still be in play, but I've gotten rid of the Warhulk. I'm still taking damage from these 2. So by trying to bait him, I'm taking an additional 2 damage since I don't have a blocker, but that's okay. I'm really not super concerned about that. I really would like to draw another resource here. Gives me more options. Comboing the burn with the Sapphire's Charge or get the Infiltrator Bot out, those types of things. Okay, right now he controls the board state. He has the board advantage. I have card advantage, however. He's got 2, I've got 4. And I know I've got some removal in my hand, as well as some removal on the board, as does he. He was smart in waiting to pop the Sapphire's Charge, knowing that he has a 2/3 here that could block as fodder. He's also got a 1/1 that could block as fodder and then swing out if I attack. At this point, I could play the Jimcraze Berserker. It's a risk because right now I'm getting lower on health. I'm going to leave him open, not going to attack with him. See if I can bait out the Sapphire's Charge. He'll probably Sapphire Charge before he attacks, so that he can attack with the additional 1/1 damage. But if he doesn't, I can still block. And if I get to the declare blocker's phase, even if I die before the damage is dealt, the block is declared. So I'm not going to use Lionel Flynn yet. I'm not going to use Sapphire Charge yet. I'm not going to play any of these cards. I'm going to leave that open for Sapphire Charge and Burn, and not play the Jim Chris Berserker, because I really don't want the Sapphire Charge used against that or the Infiltrator bot. I'm losing a lot of time to commentary, but that's okay. This is just a draft. I can always lose to timer and be content. I'm at 1 hour of recording time right now, so I will not be recording into games 2 or 3, but I wanted you to see kind of my thought process while playing too. Alright, let's see what he does. He's going to attack. He's declaring his attackers, passing priority during his declare attacker step. Alright, so we are into the declare defense step. So no matter what, if he had attacked with these and I blocked, then at that point they would be considered blocked even if he did the Sapphire Charge. Right now he knows he's got the nut straw. He knows that he can hit me with this flyer every single turn, and I can't do anything about it. So looks like he's playing conservatively, and well done for that. Especially if he did a good job reading the draft, knowing that there are Jim Chris Berserkers and other things out there. He's wise in holding that back. So at this point, I really need to get rid of that. If I draw another shard, it would be perfect because I can use Burn to the Ground. I did not. However, 2 burns is 4 damage. Sapphire Charge is another 2. That's 6 damage. Voila, Terabot gone. It's a risk because he has 5 resources available, and he could, one of his 2 cards could be a can't think of the name of the card, but basically a counterspell. So it is a risk, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Because I desperately need that card gone. He hesitated before passing priority. That makes me nervous. I really don't want to see a counterspell. Bastard. Arcane Shield. Yep, permanent spell shield. I really hate playing against good players. They're annoying. But, you know, well done. Can't really discredit him. He played it very well there. He's still annoying, but he played it very well. Alright, at this point, I have a 3-turn clock. Because he's going to be swinging my face 3 more turns. I'm at 9 damage. I've got no way to gain health. It's not looking good. He's still a bastard. So I've got 1 resource. I'm going to leave these guys as blockers because if I attack with him, he's only down to 12, and then I've got now less than 3-turn clock. So on we go. He might be wise in Sapphire Charging and then getting rid of this and attacking for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll see. Depends on what he has in his hand, I suppose. Yep. And there it goes. May have held back the Berserker too long, but you know, I had to try and get the Terabot out of there. Can't do anything about this. In fact, I don't think I have an option for this game. He's got a spell shield 3/5 because he's a bastard. Burn to the Ground is not enough damage to kill him. I cannot play 3 blockers, or even 2 blockers plus a flyer this next turn. So I'm probably screwed. Indeed, I am screwed. Alright, so at this point, I don't want to show what cards I have so I'll go ahead and concede because I don't want them knowing what to sideboard in and what have you. So I'm not going to show what cards I have, and I'll just concede, and then I'll go into my deck building phase and get some of my reserves in. But thanks for watching the video. I'll post the results in the video comments or in the description or whatnot. But thanks again, and I hope this was helpful.